The other issue is really, Stefan, when you talk about innovation, in your opening line, you spoke about the different facets of innovation.
Yeah.
Are we focusing too much on the product? Is that the nicer, more attractive form of innovation? Is the other sets of innovation more drudgery, and hence it doesn't get the kind of attention it should get?
Well, it is more visible, for sure, right? Because products are physical things, we can relate to physical things. And we've been doing this for much longer. But the reality is nowadays when you actually look at a product, there are no pure products anymore per se. Products are now bundled with services, they're bundled with business models, So inherently, yes, it is many things, and I think businesses have to broaden the way they think about innovation. And the challenge that they face, or the challenge that I see, is that many companies that have been doing this for a long time have very clear systems and processes and resource allocations and so forth that go into products. But when you go to services and business models and others, they lack that. And so they find it very challenging because they don't have the methodologies, they don't have the rigor that they typically have with product.
Mr. Godrej, there are lots of contradictions within the concept of innovation, and I'm going to touch upon a couple of them. One is, should innovation be incremental or should it be big bang? The fact is that 85%, and I don't know how true the statistic is, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but 85% of innovation is actually incremental.
It has to be a combination.
But the big revenue comes from the big bang.
Sure, but it has to be a combination. You won't get a big bang innovation all the time. So clearly you have to concentrate on the marginal innovation.
So what is the hit and miss rate in a company like yours when you're dealing with so much of product innovation at the ground level?
Well, let's put it this way. Out of every 3 new products we put out, 2 are withdrawn within 2 or 3 years. Okay. If we are successful with 1 out of 3, we are very happy over the long term.
But that means you need deep pockets to do something.
Yes,
right?
Of course. Yeah. Just as even things like advertising or marketing, it works sometimes, not all the time.
Sometimes deep pockets can actually be a disadvantage. Because
give us an example of that. That's a wonderful point, because normally the moment you have a deep pocket, you normally think that that's the answer for all the problems.
Deeper pockets can also mean that you can stay in love with a bad product for too long and perhaps not cut your losses and get out of that market if it's not working. So you need to kind of set metrics before you get started and say that's when you'll decide whether you stay with it or you just withdraw it. And to that extent, deep pockets can be a bit of a risk.
Stefan, you were talking about the big pharma companies. How much do companies who are successful in innovation actually spend on innovation? I mean, if you look at the most innovative companies, Google, Apple, in the new generation, and in the old generation, the behemoths.
So it varies a lot, basically. There's a certain sort of minimum, I believe, that you have to spend to be even a player in it. I think it's wishful thinking to believe that saying if we just put 2 people in a garage and then hope that they come up with something innovative, I mean, even though we love to hear those stories, the reality is that's not how most innovation happens. So you have to make a minimum investment. The minimum investment will vary depending on which sector you're in, depending on your failure rates. It tends to be very high in the pharma industry. It can be as high as 15, 17% of sales more. Now, just spending a lot more doesn't mean that you're more successful, by the way, but there is sort of a minimum threshold to get in to be a player. That's quite important, but it varies. If you go to other sectors, it could be as low as 3 to 4% of sales. So the best way is to look at it as what do we need to have systems in place? What do we need in terms of have resources? What kind of failures do we have to absorb? So that kind of drives that. But then within an industry, then we find a lot of variation in terms of best practices. So that doesn't, as I said, sometimes I've seen companies that spend less on innovation, but they're way more effective in terms of getting outputs from innovation.
Okay. Felix, let me ask you about the digital the new age companies, the Googles and the Apples of the world. They've redefined success. What's the hit and miss rate over there as far as innovation is concerned? Because one thinks that they are really at the cutting edge of change.
Just look at at Google in particular where the revenue comes from. The revenue still comes predominantly from that one really fabulous, great idea how to reorganize and how to redo search in the internet. This basic insight that when a lot of sites link to a particular piece of content, that piece of content must be relevant to my search. That's what's driving almost the entire success of the company. And obviously it's mountains of money, and the mountains of money allow you to do all kinds of things, from cars to glasses to all the Google products we know. But the fact remains, going back to innovation, what is it that really created value that we can monetize at the end of the day? There was this one idea.
Okay, last round of questions, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Godrej. You know, we always do very well in adversity, and God knows the condition has been pretty adverse over the last year, 2 years, 3 years. But you know, in the 90s, when we went through that slowdown, which was an inventory pile-up and a manufacturing-led, automobile-led slowdown, what also happened was that companies became the lowest cost manufacturers in the world. I mean, we looked within, tightened our belts, and you know, really prospered. Is this an opportunity?
The adversity we've gone through over the last couple of years, and I do believe the worst is behind us. So I think that will certainly help. For example, one of the things there's a lot of innovation brought in and improved productivity, cost reduction over the last year or two, the way companies have gone through the situation. So I think, yes, I think one can leverage on that.
Prakash?
I think so too, and I think there are 2 or 3 things going for us. The first, of course, is the adversity is making all of us, think afresh, find newer ways to do things, innovate. And I think there are 2 things going for us in addition to that. The first, of course, is the fact that the opportunity, the size of the prize is huge. You know, you've got so many, all those billion people that we keep talking about for everything else comes to your rescue. If you get it right, if you can win with your consumers, you've got a huge prize. And the third one, I think, is really the fact that I think we've got a new generation of people coming into work in our organizations. And I think they are impatient, they are ambitious, and they want to get on and get things done. And I think that's a huge win in your favor.
Okay. The last words from the professors. Uncertainty is global, actually. You don't know what's going to happen, which company is going to go for bankruptcy, and what's going to happen. It's all moving parts. So do you think we will go beyond the lip service to innovation, Stefan, and actually look at this period as perhaps the biggest churner of real innovation?
I think we've moved way beyond the lip service. You know, I think there are a lot of tremendous sort of opportunities around the world. You know, companies are investing. You know, in innovation, uncertainty is your friend. You know, as opposed to, by the way, in manufacturing where uncertainty is your enemy. And so uncertainty creates opportunity. It creates new constraints. And when you have new constraints, you can come up with new solutions. And so that's the way we should look at it. You know, in India, there's always, you just have to go outside the hotel. There's a lot of uncertainty around us. And people are sort of optimistic. They know how to deal with uncertainty. I think we should fully embrace uncertainty rather than see it as a threat.